The meeting of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee is now in session. It's Wednesday, July 13th. It is 7 p.m. and we're at Shepherd Hill Regional High School in Dudley. We'll all stand to pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of Tuesday, June 21st. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Elaine?
Two things. I was wondering in the first order of business if we can note within the vice chair and the secretary nominations who were the seconds on those.
I think so. We didn't.
Yes, but you don't need a second.
You don't need a second?
No.
Good to know.
When you nominate, you just nominate.
Okay.
And then,
And then on page 10, under item 12, under the first paragraph, I would just like it noted that I left the meeting at 9:26 prior to voting.
Okay, anyone else? Elaine, is that it? Oh, okay. Anyone else? No? Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carries, it's unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the executive session of Tuesday, June 21st.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Okay, all in favor? And,
Abstain.
right, one abstention. 6-1 abstention. Approval of a warrant. We do have a warrant this evening to be signed. Citizens Forum. Anyone this evening? Communications, Mr. Desto?
I do not have any communications, but I wanted to point out to the committee that we sent a letter on behalf of the committee to all of our legislators to thank them for their help throughout the course of the budget process this year. So we sent one to Senator Goby, Senator Fatman, and Representative Durant, and also thank them for their, I think, unusual responsiveness to our needs. And we call and we invite them, they show up, and I don't think that happens everywhere. So just to know that a letter went out on our behalf.
Thank you. How about our members?
I have something. I have an update on the End Common Core initiative. Apparently there was 100,000 signatures collected and approved by Attorney General Maura Healey. However, the Supreme Judicial Court has made a decision to not allow it to be on the ballot for November. One reason was that they stated it was improperly certified by the Attorney General, and the other reason cited was that the two issues that were in the write-up needed to be separated. One was testing and one was Common Core. However, they are very much intertwined, and that's why it was together. So at this point, they're not quite sure what steps they're going to take next, but it doesn't look like it's going to be on the ballot.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
Any other members? Okay, and I have one from Greg. Greg. Dear school committee members, I wanted to take a few minutes to express my gratitude for your recent evaluation and vote of confidence. I will, as I always do, review all your feedback, both positive and critical, and incorporate it into improvement efforts for next year. Perhaps more importantly, I want to thank you for entrusting me with this important responsibility in a place that I love so much, and for the ongoing support you have given me throughout the year. It makes a world of difference when we work together for our students and staff. As you know, that doesn't happen everywhere. Respectfully, Greg Desto.
How's the punctuation?
Very good.
Where's my red pen?
Kathy might find something.
I won't say it.
Probably will, yeah.
I'm on vacation.
I'll give it a whirl.
Superintendent's report, Mr. Desto.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. So I want to give everybody an update on the data specialist central registrar position, and I guess I'll do that by congratulating publicly Anne Marie LaFond, who I named as the first ever data specialist central registrar in our district's history. She's already begun her duties with several appointments scheduled for enrollments, and along with webmaster Kelly Frederico, Anne Marie is building an enrollment webpage with all the pertinent information on it, and they'll start working on that on Monday, so the page should be functional by the middle of next week, and we will do all we can to get the word out that registration is now centralized. I sent a message to the principals indicating that if somebody arrives at the school unaware that we have central registration and has all their materials perfectly prepared to enroll, then we're going to enroll them at the school. If they would have had to make a second trip anyway, we're going to ask them to call Anne Marie and make an appointment to do the central registration. And so if there's any way we can just all sort of share the burden of getting the word out, that would be helpful. This is a transitional phase, so it's going to take a little bit of time before we get it perfect. But I also want to just end by thanking the committee for the foresight to approve that position. The more I look at other districts around, it's becoming an absolute must, and so it was absolutely the right decision.
Now,
Still have
Anne
that
Marie's office, is it in the front now?
She is going to be where Cheryl Kozub has historically been.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
They still have to come in physically, even though all that stuff is on the website. That's
Yes.
just to get them ready for what they bring with them.
Right. They can do several of the items online and bring them with them,
But they
and
still
it'd
have
make
to
it, it would
physically-
shave a lot of time off their
Right.
appointment, but yeah. Okay. And then an update on MCAS 2.0, as I indicated in your package. The state has announced what is actually a fairly reasonable plan to incrementally move toward full implementation of online testing. So this year, the 2016-17 school year, our grade 4 and 8 students will test exclusively on computers. The other students who take MCAS will have the choice of doing paper or computer, and the state is encouraging people to use the computer, but for the most part, most districts are going to stick with paper in every grade other than 4 and 8. So, as indicated in the memo from Mrs. Allen and Mr. Darkangelo, we're in good shape for this year, particularly when you factor in new equipment that we have as part of this year's budget. But as the state adds 2 grades per year, moving toward all grades being on computers by 2019, we're going to have to do some strategic planning on how we want to infuse technology in our schools, and of course, how to pay for it. Additionally, on the potentially positive note, there has been some talk about a universal hold harmless for this year as they start to phase this in. That's not definite. There's whisperings, and I'll keep you up to date on that. I personally think it makes sense, but I may have a horse in the race on that. So just to give you an update on that, that's where we stand on MCAS 2.0 and the computer implementation. Then just a quick, this is going to require some discussion among the committee, but regarding my goals and my evaluation for this coming year, after our workshop with Dorothy Presser and in anticipation of setting goals in more of a group manner this year, I wanted to throw out to the committee the idea that we have a special workshop type meeting in August to discuss priorities for the coming year. If we want to do that, it will need to be after August 10th, as in addition to that being our next meeting. That is the second day of our administrative retreat where I work with the principals and administrators on priorities as a leadership team. So I'll need that information to do anything regarding my goals for the coming year. That's a big part of the puzzle. So that's, I guess, option A. If for some reason we can't come together, I think we'll be able to. I can also accept recommendations in writing or something like that and put it together, and we can discuss it at our meetings. But my recommendation would be to try to put together a separate workshop type setting for this.
You want to do it in August or September?
I would think that it needs to be in mid to late August, because I'd like to try to get at least the framework of it done before school starts.
Okay. How does the committee feel about meeting in August, at the end of August?
End of August would be best for me.
It'd be a nighttime meeting, right? It'd be night.
We could do
I
some.
mean, would it
Yeah.
work? Is it up
We could do
to-
something like 5 o'clock, or
Something like that.
maybe have something to eat. Do you want me to go back and look at thinking last 2 weeks of August or something like that, and put a date up, throw a couple dates out there and times, and see if everybody's available? Okay. And finally, I just saw a very special person walk in a few minutes ago, and so I want to give recognition to somebody who's in the room right now, and I think we all know who that is, but I'm going to say some of the same things I said at Mrs. Dono's retirement party, but I'll change it a little bit and shorten it quite a bit, because I think I spoke for about a half an hour at that meeting. It was like the Magna Carta up there. But just a little bit of background. I think everybody knows Doris was a teacher in the district for many years at the Heritage School, and was, from what I've been told, beloved by her students, and then became principal of the Mason Road School in 2000. And I remember it was my first day in the district, so to a rousing ovation on opening day, and I remember thinking, who's the popular girl? And it was also Mr. Gilrain's time of his famous Marsha, Marsha, Marsha line. Now, that was the year I came along as assistant principal at Charlton Middle, and I want to say to absolutely no ovation whatsoever, only suspicious glances from the crowd who didn't know me from a hole in the wall. But later on, when I became principal at Dudley Middle School, in all seriousness, I had a front row seat to watching the work that Doris led her staff to do at Mason Road. And, I don't think Mason Road was ever by any means a bad school, but in the time that Mrs. Dono was in charge, it became an amazing place for kids. And we go to the school a few times a year, maybe more than that, and you always feel good coming out of there. It's just a nice place for kids to go to school. And there's a lot of things that go into making a leader, but the bottom line measure, some would say, is that you leave the place better than you found it. And Doris, you definitely did that. You've done an incredible job, and we've talked about this since the party, and I know that you are very proud of the job you did, and you should be. Okay? We all hope that you'll take the opportunity to kick back, relax, and spend as much time as you possibly can with the people you love the most. Personally, I'll miss you, and particularly the chicken cordon bleu. It's an inside thing, but when we used to, well, thank you. See, when we used to have our meetings on a rotating basis, sometimes people would try to outdo one another with what we served in the chicken cordon bleu. I've never had it better than I had it at the Mason Road School with Doris. But truly, we hope that life will be good to you every day in your retirement. And we thank you so much for what you did for the district. And you know what this means. This comes with a certificate of authenticity. I guess that means it's a real chair. I'll put it over here so you can sit in it for a little while later on. And, you want to say anything?
I do. Okay.
Come on up, darling. Come on. And you had a great party, darling.
Party was fun.
It was really good.
It was a lot of work, and the committee who planned it
Yes.
really spent a lot of time, and it was just a great night with everybody that I've worked with, teachers and other principals and my colleagues and my family. It was very, very special. And I thank all of you who were able to come that night. But it truly was a celebration, but it was very relaxed. I think everybody had a good time, so
We did.
it was good. But it's like they say, it's bittersweet, and there are moments where I'm like, I gotta go to work. I gotta check in and see what these custodians are doing, right? And but it's very special, and it's going to take a while, I think, to transition into this new phase. But it is a good phase, and there's a lot of other work that needs to be done, and some will be volunteer work, and wherever it takes me. But my husband's eating at 5 o'clock, for those of you who are at the party, and we have our coffee together. So it's
You're the best life.
yeah.
Don't say the best
No, we
life.
won't.
Yeah.
You were so funny.
Oh my!
So we'll miss you, Doris.
Yeah.
I will miss all
Everything,
of you. I will miss all of you.
whatever you do, you always attacked everything with enthusiasm, and we really will miss you.
Well, that's as a young girl. I mean, my father and mother were wonderful, and They taught us work ethic, and
Yeah.
they taught us what we needed to do to be successful, to be able to give to others, to help others, you know. So I'm very fortunate that way. And along the way, you know, just being able to help the children that I've touched their lives, and helping their parents, maybe just to be able to work with them in a different way, you know. So all of that is really important. So I don't think I'm finished working with kids. In fact, I was just reading The Mouse and the Motorcycle with Addison. So, you know, there's a lot to do with my grandkids and my family and my mom. You know, she's really excited that I'm able to spend more time with her. So I have no regrets. It was a wonderful, wonderful journey, 31 great years. And I don't know, to be able to say that you've worked in the district in one place for that many years is really very special. And the chair will always be a symbol and a keepsake of these wonderful years.
And you notice, if you don't mind, Mrs. O'Connor, that we don't give a rocking chair, because we know, you know, there's a line, Billy Joel has a line, says something like, don't go too far, we've got plans for you. We're still working on that, but I don't think we're done with you yet.
Whatever you need.
I appreciate it.
You know where I live, you know my number. If
Yeah.
you need any help in any way, I would be very happy to come back and help you to be a part of this
You're
organization.
going to take your picture in the chair.
Yeah,
Go sit
that'd
in
be
the chair.
great.
Picture?
Do you mind if we get a picture? You look
Yeah,
great.
picture.
You look
Yeah,
nice and
well,
relaxed.
that's
Nice and tan.
Many, many thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, Doris. But we'll be seeing you.
Oh, yes.
You don't mind if we
Yeah,
just
take
get a
the
quick
picture.
picture?
Go ahead.
Throw online up.
And I just have one more thing. Good. And so the last thing I have in superintendent's report is to bring to the attention of the committee a bit of a conundrum that has come our way by nobody's fault this day. And that is that Joanne Santelli is here, a resident of the district, and she is proposed to be the host of an Italian exchange student. The problem is the paperwork through the same company that we approved a student in March, a different student. This would be the second one, and that's the maximum that we accept. The paperwork didn't come to Shepherd Hill, as far as I know, until last Thursday, and the person it went to has been on vacation. So I just found out about it today. Somebody must have, perhaps it was you, Mrs. Santelli, realized something's amiss here. I better look into it. Yep. So essentially, I've only been able to take a very quick glance at the paperwork. The student is the right age, has a tremendous academic record. You know, it looks at a quick glance very appropriate. The principal hasn't had a chance to look at it yet, the Shepherd Hill principal. So I would say that we would have, one possibility would be that we approve, because August 1st is the deadline, and we don't meet until August 10th. I would ask the committee to consider approving this conditional upon the review of the principal and a more thorough review by me. I have a feeling, I mean, I'm virtually certain that it's, you know, it fits our policy to a T and that the student is appropriate, but I just want to make sure that we have a chance to look it over more carefully. But if, I would ask the committee to consider that at this
I'll make that
time.
motion, we approve the exchange student conditional upon approval of the paperwork.
Okay.
And approval with the principal and
Yeah.
the superintendent. And I have a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mrs. Santelli, for not waiting any longer, because it was essential that you brought it to our attention today, so thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to new business. Established school committee meeting schedule 2016-2017. And I know our policy is that we meet on the second Wednesday and the fourth Wednesday of every month. With the exception of November and December, we only meet once, and then that's an agreeable date with the committee. And then July and August, that's once a month with an agreeable date with the committee. So maybe the budget committee wants to set up that's right, Kathy.
So look at me.
Elaine.
I think,
and-
didn't we want to also decide what day would meet early, which Wednesday would be the early night? Like, will be the first, the second one? You know, the budget, when we all meet,
It
we're
will
going to
have
come
to
in
be
at,
the second one.
if it's second,
Because, if I may,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
coin, the Budget Subcommittee is going to meet for the first time on August 3rd, at which time we will work on a schedule for our meetings for the year. It's very likely, as it was last year, that it'll be the in-between Wednesday, whenever possible. So the second meeting of the school committee is the right time to do the budget update, the earlier meeting.
The earlier before that second meeting, right?
Correct.
Like on the...
Yeah.
And on a Wednesday, or are you going to have a certain day,
Well,
or are you going to
we're-
change it?
As of now, we'll very likely propose the off Wednesday, so the Wednesday in between the official meetings.
so then the fourth Wednesday of the month will start at 6 or something. What did we decide, at 6?
Yeah.
Should we make that official tonight, or wait till you make your schedule?
Either way, I would
It
think
would be the 4th if they're going to do the
Right,
3rd.
it's the fourth,
then-
but I mean, if sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, we'd have to change it.
We can always make it 6 and then change it to 7 if we're not that kind of meeting.
Yeah, I think regardless of when the subcommittee decides to do its meetings, it's going to have to be that second meeting. So
So do you wanna
I think
change-
it's fair to change that to 6 tonight.
So all the second Wednesdays,
Would be
second-
6 unless we...
unless we decide we don't need it,
exchange
there's nothing to
You're right.
discuss.
Great.
Is
What
that,
about the month of November and December?
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out, I think, when we get together as a group. And that's a great question, because
Yeah.
we only have one meeting as a school committee.
but I think as we get closer, because people might be going away or something, when we set up our date for our school committee meeting, first. We can't do it right now because we really wouldn't know what.
December, we usually do early anyway,
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
holiday concert presentation, so I think it's
We
safe.
probably do it, yeah.
I think it would be safe to do 6.
These dates that were given, I think, seem fine, November 9th and December 14th, those
You
seem
think?
good.
I think at the very least, we can set the 6 o'clock for the second meeting of every month that we have 2 meetings.
Yeah, why don't we do that, and then
let's do
maybe
that.
November,
And then maybe work,
And then as we get closer, we can decide on November and December.
So, Coyne, we also have a bit of a challenge with February, in that the second, the time that we would normally meet, which is the February 22nd, falls during vacation week. So, I think the committee should give some thought to how they want to work with that. And a couple of suggestions that Mr. Matthew and I thought of were moving it, so we would meet on the 8th and have a regular meeting on the 8th, and then have the 15th, which is only a week later, but have it be a budget workshop for the school committee instead of a regular meeting. So it's essentially a regular meeting, it's public, but all we talk about is budget, and all we work on is budget for that particular meeting, and we use it like a workshop type setting. We could also look at doing a regular meeting on the 28th, which is a Tuesday. The committee should prefer that option.
What do you think?
The budget workshop sounds good.
I like the idea of the budget workshop. The second, that would be the second week,
So the 22 will make the 15th.
So we would do it the 15th.
the 15th.
That would be our suggestion. Because February vacation, there'll be some people who are out of town.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
That sounds good.
I like that.
All right.
Okay?
Wait,
And then you
before-
can send that,
wait,
send the schedule to all of us.
Would that be
Sure.
at 6 or 7, that budget workshop?
Okay, so that's a good question.
Make it 7 because it's like a regular meeting. Well, I know that's the second one, so it should be 6.
Let's do
6.
6.
It's to be
Yeah.
consistent with all the other 6s.
Yeah. So we'll get a revised schedule out to the committee, and then once we meet as a subcommittee, we're going to probably have to do some additions to it at that point as well.
And then just the back, you
Yeah.
have double names.
I know.
Got a new one.
in the
I gave it the
Yeah, the
second.
corrected one is in your packet
That's the
tonight,
corrected one,
but
too.
it's going to be May forever next year.
Groundhog Day. She gave us the second, right? Two. Said it came from corrected ones.
Okay, everybody satisfied with that? Any other questions before I go on? All set. Okay, Shepherd Hill Site Study, Mr. Desto?
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. So essentially, what I'm looking for here tonight is for the committee to give some consideration to and perhaps empower me to put together a group that will be tasked with carefully reviewing all the information available in the site study and available in the minds and the memories of the many people who have been part of Shepherd Hill presently and in the past, and having us create a report of recommendations for the actions that we should take going forward. This is an incredibly complicated challenge that we have because the building is older. It's a well-maintained building. We all know it's a well-maintained building, but there are systems in the building that need to be replaced. We don't have any present urgent safety issues, but we do know that in the near future we're going to have to put a lot of money into it. But at the same time, if we still have our statement of interest with MSBA, and so we have to figure out a way to modernize the facility and make the facility more functional while not having those changes go to waste should we get the MSBA statement of interest. As Mr. Matthew and I discussed this, it's overwhelming. It's a very delicate task, and so we want to get together with as many people who are in the know or who have a chance to be able to advise us properly as we can. And so I'm looking for a committee, as I put in your package, that would include some school committee members, a minimum of at least 2 school committee members, would include some past Shepherd Hill sort of lifers, like perhaps Sean Gilrain, Bill Trifoni, Mary Perangeli, just to name a few, and I'm just throwing those out there off the top of my head. Of course, the present administration, some of the staff from the present staff at Shepherd Hill, and maintenance staff, and I may be forgetting maybe people who are experts on this type of thing. But one way or the other, we need a group that can really study this, look at the site study very carefully, put the priorities on the table and say, okay, this has to be first, this has to be next, here's how we should go about suggesting this to the school committee. And you know, I believe that that's the best process for us to take going forward.
Do you want us to vote on the committee? Do you want us to, on forming the committee, or we're just going to form it, everybody's in agreement?
If everyone's in agreement, just say, yeah, superintendent is empowered to go and do this. I don't suppose we need a vote.
No, we don't really need a vote on it.
And I guess tonight we don't have to necessarily decide who from the school committee is going to be a part of it, but if you wanted to do that, you could, and then I could start reaching out to some of the other folks.
When would you be looking to start the committee activities?
You know, I've thought a little bit about that, and I'm thinking probably right away in September. Last year at this time, we were looking at the strategic planning revisions and review and all that, and so this will just take the place of that. Every year there's going to be something. This is a big one, and I would think that early in September I would like to notify people before the middle of August and see who's available.
I know I'm interested, and I think Kathy is, but we can add more. How about Stephanie? Because we have the budget committee. So, do you want to, Mary? It says 2, but we can.
I would be interested in being on the committee, but I don't know how many people
Well,
would be optimum for your committee, so you can tell us.
Well, if we have a lot of people, we'll break it up into smaller groups, and we'll make it work. I need a lot of brain power.
Well, we've been
in that.
on building committee where there was 3 or 4, right? On the committee. So, Mary, we can have 3. And Stephanie said you weren't interested at this time.
Thanks.
And this way, we're all on a committee. And
Interested anybody from the communities? Because on the building
Yeah.
committees, we always had like
Yeah.
selectmen or something like that.
Yeah,
have that on your list?
absolutely. And no, I know I didn't put any on the list,
Okay.
but I definitely think so. And I think whether they're a part of the committee or not, all the time, at least they should be invited to participate. Town administrators, safety
I was
officials,
going to say fire and
unquestionably.
police.
Unquestionably. So, we'll invite them, and they'll show up when they can.
and
but-
then no matter what goes on the committee, we always come back and inform
Always come
the
back.
whole committee.
Like anything, it's informative, and what I would like to, my vision of it right now, although it's incomplete, is to sometime late in the fall, we're putting together a report for the school committee to say this is what we believe the priorities are and this is how financially we can look into attacking this, and things of that nature. So.
Okay, so it's Mary,
My
Kathy,
only
and
question is,
myself.
you have 15 here. If this is a voting committee, you have to have at least 8 every time. That could be tough. If you add select firemen, police, we could have a committee of 20. You need 11 people to vote, to have a quorum.
Yeah.
So when you get it too big, it's almost unmanageable. So you
I-
might want
I-
to trim
yeah.
down like 3 teachers from Shepherd. I don't really know if you need 3 teachers.
Maybe not.
You
And
know,
I
think that you
just
should
kind
look
of
at
put
those
that out
numbers
there as an
because
idea.
if it's too big, it's
Yeah.
it's
And maybe
not
we can have a
manageable.
core group
Yeah,
and then invite others at
if they want to come, put an
sometimes
open
because we
date,
might be
list of dates.
discussing
But I
a
wouldn't
certain.
have too big a committee because
Okay.
it's too hard for voting and so forth.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, next on the agenda is Finance Director update, and Mr. Matthew.
Thank you very much. I do have a couple of items for the committee this evening. The first, donations. Dudley Elementary School has received a donation from the Janet Maisler Trust in the amount of $28.25 to be used for music in the schools. Dudley L has also received $2,900 from Box Stops for Education and $64.31 from Target's Take Charge of Education program. Lastly, the Dudley L Caring Continues program has received a $250 donation from the E.J. Stoha Insurance Agency and a $100 donation from Empire Travel.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion
Oh,
for...
One
You
more, if
still
I could.
have one more.
Charlton Middle School has received a $1,000 donation from Exxon Corp. for hosting the community information session that occurred there
That's
last
right.
month.
So,
I know.
We're hoping that's the beginning, yeah.
and I'm glad to hear all these donations every week. I
Yeah.
mean, we're very fortunate.
The community really does
We are
support the
very
schools in
fortunate.
both towns.
Just- I'll entertain a motion to approve the donations. Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Now on to some not as good news. The FY17 Budget Conference Committee has wrapped up its work, and the governor actually has approved the budget with some additional vetoes. The good news for us is Chapter 70 has remained stable to the revenue that we had budgeted. Our transportation budget is short by approximately $60,000. From what we had projected from the Senate budget version to where it is now. However, this balance can be made up from the additional funds that we received in FY16 for transportation that will be sitting in the Regional Transportation Revolving Fund. The only issue there is that it'll be that much less that we can use to support the FY18 budget. The major hit and change for the district is the loss of the kindergarten grant. This grant seemed to be not on the table at the start of the process. Once it was introduced by the governor, it seemed like it was a no-brainer, full go, yeah, we're going to have this and it's going to be a secure program. Seemed that was what the information we received from our representatives and senator. And then conference committee has completely eliminated it. So that's an $80,000 hit to the budget. At this point, I would recommend that we let the hiring process kind of work its way through for the summer. I'll make budget adjustments as needed and bring forward something either in August or in the beginning part of fall for budget transfers to deal with this. It's unfortunate that it happens at such a late date. But again, we did have, sources to cover this if necessary. On to school lunch pricing. As you know, we came before you at the last meeting, and I'm going to attempt this and I'm going to butcher it. Payanitu.
Just say
Andy.
Andy.
If Andy has. Sorry, I did not study Greek.
You know Mrs. Dono's here, right?
Yes. We did do research, and the price level per the federal government guidelines does need to be at $2.89 for next year. So our recommendation, obviously we're not going to deal with returning pennies, is to make the lunch price $2.90 for next year. That's a 15-cent increase. However, it is something that we need to do. that's my recommendation to the committee.
And I'm against. I think we can just, absorb that amount ourselves.
Well, based on the price difference and the lunch count, we would be talking about $26,000 to $30,000.
Do we have
Additional.
that type in the revolving?
We can't use the school lunch funds to support that. It would have to come from the general fund and from the budget that we've approved. And as we all know, as we went through the budget process this year, we're not sitting on, incredible amounts of flexible dollars there. They're all dedicated towards academics and extracurricular activities and transportation and employees and those sorts of things. So
So the bottom
the
line
impact
is
would be about
$26,000, you said?
yeah, about based on the meals served last year. Obviously, we're looking to increase that number for the upcoming year. The impact on a per student basis would be about $25 for the year. 14 cents over 180 meals.
For a kid who buys every day.
Right.
So, do I have a motion?
Well, I'm going to make a motion based on the finance director's recommendation to increase the school lunch price to $2.90 starting this fall.
Second.
Discussion?
I think it should be noted that we have to make it $2.89 no matter how we do it. It's got to be $2.89 for the federal grant.
Correct.
The federal
That's
grant.
correct.
It's not like we're just doing this because we want to.
It doesn't have to be
No.
$289 for the federal grant. We can eat that amount.
No, but somehow we have
It's
to,
gotta
we
get-
have
We
to
have
figure
to-
out that it's got
right,
to
but we can
whether we do
eat
it or the
that,
student
right.
does it, it has to be $2.89 is the
And I
target
think it's a
figure.
lot of money that kids have to pay. I mean, especially if they have more than one kid in the family. And lunches are very important to our students. And I'm not for it. I think we should eat that amount of money, 26,000.
I would agree with you if we had it to take, but it doesn't sound like we have it to take from anywhere,
Well, we
so.
can take it from our surplus.
And then what happens next year when it has to go up to $3? Because every year that figure goes
That's
up.
right.
So it's going to be a bigger jump next year for the kids. So I think they should
Incremental.
incrementally, next year we're going to have to go up again next year, or 2 years from now, somehow.
The presumption from the federal formula is that there's an increase for virtually each and every year.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we do a little every year, it's better than 25 cents or 50 cents over 3 years or something.
How long have we been at the current rate? Do you happen to have that information?
I think this is at least the second year that we've been at
Yeah,
275.
it's been more than 1 year, I know that.
And I think it's possible that the lunch price should have been increased this past year. But I think it was not that big of a deal at 276 or 277, so.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, so it is 6-1. I opposed.
Thank you very much. And the last item I have for the committee this evening is a vote on surplus items from both Dudley and Charlton Middle Schools. You have a list attached to the memo here of the surplus books at the Dudley Middle School and the Charlton Middle School. In addition to that, the Dudley Middle School has 8 projectors and carts that are in disrepair and not being used at Dudley Middle, which should be surplused.
Okay. And you want it to be categorized as surplus?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
If I may. Mrs. Allen has looked into the selling of the books here, and there is no retail value on these.
Did you ever think of letting the kids take them home in the fall?
We could certainly do that, and
Yeah, in the
I
past.
believe there are programs where people will collect them as well and send them, to overseas or other places where
So
they
you're
could be
not throwing them
utilized.
out?
That's not the intention at this
Okay,
point.
because
but
I know when we got a new series of books, we let the kids take the whole ones home. They love that.
Yeah.
Kids love it.
I still got some from when I
Yeah,
was
good.
in
So
school.
you should look into that before we throw anything else.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much. That's all I have for this
Thank you.
evening.
We have on our agenda consideration to approve agreement with the Title I teachers but we'll be going into executive session first, and then we will reconvene if we must take a vote, and then adjourn. So we'll skip over that one. School choice guidelines, 2017-2018 discussion, and I believe Stephanie wanted that on the agenda this time, and maybe you want to speak to it
Do
first?
you mind if I get it started, and then we'll go from there? I put together a little bit of a cheat sheet about school choice that, and I'd like to give a copy to everybody, and then I'd like to go over it, as tedious as it may be, and a lot of the things in there are you already know. But as much for the public as anybody, I would like to go through this. There is some new information in here, and I even learned something new today. Mrs. Sullivan was shocked.
What, did you learn something new?
No, well, probably, but you'll know it right when I get to it. But so once I'm done with this, this may stimulate some discussion, and then we can go from there. And I'll just go through some of the bullet points of what Massachusetts state law for school choice requires. So these are things for which we don't have a say. We have to have a vote of the school committee. Does everybody have a copy? Prior to May 1st to determine whether or not we want to participate, and if so, the number of seats that we will open. We knew that, and we do that every year. We knew that we have to have a lottery-style selection if there are more applications than seats open. The law says that we cannot discriminate in who we select for school choice on the basis of race, color, religious creed, and I'm going through it for a reason, national origin, sex, gender identity, age, sexual orientation, ancestry, athletic performance, physical handicap, special need, academic performance, or proficiency in the English language. A couple of things that are allowable. The flexibility that we have are the next two bullets, that siblings can receive priority, but only if there is a seat open. So seats are not given because an already accepted child has a sibling. Rather, the school committee sets the number of seats, and if the sibling of an already enrolled student is an appropriate applicant, he or she gets priority and does not have to be subject to the lottery. This is what I found today that I did not know. It appears that it is also allowable to deny school choice seats based on past disciplinary actions. The law does not specifically state this, as far as I could find in the law in my research. But it does not include disciplinary history as one of the factors for which districts cannot, quote-unquote, discriminate. As a result of this omission, as they say in the church, many districts deny acceptance to students who have had major disciplinary problems. I was looking through and I found 3 online pretty quickly, Georgetown, Seekonk, and interestingly, Holyoke, because Holyoke is currently being run by the State Department of Education. I have Holyoke's school choice application, and it says about 3/4 of the way down, your child may be denied a school choice seat based on past school disciplinary actions in accordance with Mass General laws. I think in my opinion, and I haven't run this by a lawyer, they're taking a bit of a leap that because it's not in the law, you can do that. And apparently it's doable because the State Department of Education run district is doing it. So that was very interesting to me. There is, on this topic, though, a bit of a conundrum as to how do you find that out. We can put, our application can be stronger, it can say, have you ever been suspended? If so, for what, offense? We can make it a stronger application. We do not have access to that child's file before they're accepted, though. So we can't, see the reports or anything like that. So that's an interesting thing. I don't know how they get around that. Okay, so as we knew, once a child has been accepted, he or she is entitled to stay until high school graduation. It cannot be a year-to-year thing. Once they're in, unless they do something for which they can't be in anymore, like move out of state or be a horrifically disciplined problem. And he or she is subject to the same exact rules, regulations, protections, and privileges as all students in the district. There cannot be separate rules for school choice students. So, and I won't go into the last paragraph. That's more editorial in nature for the school committee. But that's, in a nutshell, what the state law requires of us and what little flexibilities we do have if we choose, once again, to participate in the program. And I think now we'll throw it out there and see what discussion ensues.
Elaine, you wanted to say something?
Just on the new information that you have regarding discipline and your thought on changing the application to look for a disclosure on whether or not there's past disciplinary history. Is it possible to say the failure to disclose past disciplinary history based on the receipt of your educational records is also grounds for not providing you a seat? And I don't know if that's, I would assume we'd have to run that by our
Yeah.
attorney to see if
I
that
hope
was
so.
legal, but I would, failure to disclose, I think, should eliminate a
I
person.
agree, and we said the same thing today. I hope that's doable. That would be something we would want to consider. So,
Stephanie?
So the siblings, so just because I just want to make this, siblings do not receive preference unless there's a slot that we
Correct.
vote on.
Right.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't there's not just an opening because there's a sibling. You make the openings as a school committee, and if that sibling is in that grade and is an appropriate applicant, then they do get priority. But, yeah.
So as part of the process, does somebody go through the applicants first to look for sibling applicants?
Yes, we do.
Oh, you do?
So you do that first,
We do.
and then
Yeah.
you do the lottery after that?
Correct. And last year, or 2 years ago, well, I was superintendent, so it couldn't have been any longer ago than that. At Charlton Middle, we never got to, in one grade anyway, we never even got to the lottery because there were that many siblings.
But the openings we choose
you-
before you
yeah.
go through the
Correct.
siblings.
Yeah.
We vote on the openings first. So there's no politics involved. And then you look for the siblings. But
Right.
we've already,
Right.
right.
Question would be, is if the number of siblings looking to come in exceed the number of seats available,
It
do you
goes
then
to-
do a lottery
do a
out of the
lottery for
siblings?
that.
Sibling lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Haven't had that yet.
This doesn't say if they're disciplined and they come here, you can't send them back.
No.
You know,
That-
that leeway,
Yeah.
that's definitely a no-no. Would
No,
you say?
because, right, based on this discussion tonight, we've got some time here, but we'll talk with Mr. Cosgrove about this and see if I'm right.
Right.
I believe I am, from my research, that this is an omission thing and not it doesn't specifically say in the law, but it's not in there, so I guess we can do it.
Right.
But if a child comes in with a clean record and then is disciplined here, yes, we have to treat them the same way we would a resident,
So
which
once
is
they
that
came in and we didn't know they had a bad record, we find out afterwards.
I think-
Can you send them home?
that is exactly what I think we need to discuss when we
Yeah, so you
redo
gotta
the
get that in
application,
black
that
and
if we
white.
choose to participate, as Mrs. Rabbit said, perhaps we put out an application that strongly words, if we're legally able to do so. We need to know about your have you been suspended, have you been expelled, for what's, and failure to disclose would be grounds for not being accepted as well. Because once they're accepted, we'll get the record and we'll get everything. But until that, all we have is their word that they checked off on the application.
Is there any way that you could check with superintendents of these other schools to see what they're doing and how they're handling
Absolutely,
that?
absolutely.
Now, behavior here, they'll be treated just like a regular student, but will we be able, is there a cutoff point where you say enough is enough because you are a school choice?
Not because they're school choice, but just because they're our student. If they're consistent, like any kid, if they're consistently disrupting the learning process and every type of intervention has been attempted that we have the authority to do, then the schools will generally look for an alternative for the child, whether that means an alternative placement, a school that specializes in behavior management or whatever else. But
They can't
You
go
have
back
to-
to their own school. That's what I'm saying. They
Well,
can't go back
that-
to their own school.
I guess that's a great question. I guess they probably could, but we own them, though. So if we decide that the student is not appropriate for our school, we've got to find an appropriate placement for the child. I suppose the parent could withdraw from school choice and re-enroll in the district. I don't see any reason why they couldn't do that if they were against our recommendation.
If they were expelled, they can't go back to their home
That's right. If they're expelled, then they don't have to be accepted. But we're talking about your typical, we've got to figure out what to do here. We own that.
Because once they're here, we have to treat them like they're here.
Yes.
No
They're
different
our
than if one of our
students.
students was doing the same
Same
thing.
thing, right.
You can't send them anywhere.
Anyway,
Just if it were a student that came in and we sent them to we made the determination that they had to go to an alternative placement, then the cost of the alternative placement goes back to the home district.
Does.
Home district.
That's correct.
So, in that case, there are students that we send out, but the financial responsibility goes back to the home district.
Right, and we have to include because of that, probably, we have to include the sending district in those discussions for what we want to do with the placement.
Any other questions before we go on?
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you,
Yes,
because
thank you
I learned something
Yeah.
new that
That's
is potentially going to
really
be very
good.
important to us.
Now, before we go on, is this blower going to go off at 8 o'clock, or were you just pulling my leg?
No, she poked her head in and I said,
thought it was
you told her
fine.
to
I
keep
don't
it
mind.
on.
You told her to keep it on?
Yeah, my papers are holding still.
We're
Are you
almost done, there's
cold?
only two more things.
Two more to go.
Two more things, two more
Want to see if
things.
Lisa's
Speed it
out
up and
there?
we're done.
No,
Please.
that's,
We're almost done, Polly. You can just place the Thank you.
oh, God. Okay, next on the agenda is consideration of requests for non-resident enrollment, policy JF, and this vote required. Mr. Desto?
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. I have now, if I may, 3 requests for the committee. If it's okay, can I bring a third one to your attention as well? The first 2 you had in your package. The first one is a young man who just completed his junior year at Shepherd Hill, and the family, because of their situation, has had to move out of town. And consistent with policy JK, they have requested that he be able to finish his education here at Shepherd Hill. So I recommend approval of that. You want to do them one at a
We'll
time
do,
or all
no,
together?
we'll do them. Are they all recommended by you?
They are, but the other 2 are different from the first one. So the second one, which you also had in your package, is for a family who actually used to be residents of the district who are coming back and have provided all the paperwork and purchase and sale agreement that says they take ownership of their house in late August, early September. It sometimes doesn't work out that way, but certainly during the first quarter of the year. They have children in grades 11 and grade 9, and so according to our policy, because they are expected to take occupancy during the first quarter, I recommend approval as well. And the one that came to my attention later, after the package went out, is very similar to the second one in that it's a family with kids going into grades kindergarten and 1, who similarly have provided the documentation that they are expected to take ownership of a newly constructed home in early September. So I recommend approval of all 3.
Okay, do you want me to take them separately, or
Yes.
they're all under the same policy, non-resident?
That is also, they're all Dudley.
All of them?
Well, the first one is Shepherd Hill, so.
Right, right.
Okay, we'll take them one at a time. So the first one, Greg, that you gave us
Yep.
was...
This is the young man who's going to be a senior at Shepherd Hill, and
Okay.
they have to move out of town. So
Second.
discussion.
Just make sure we've got transportation, correct?
Yep.
Well, I have a concern. I don't really know how to state this. From a strictly business perspective, if the family is no longer resident in Dudley or Charlton, then they're no longer paying taxes in these towns. So who foots the bill for this child in their last year?
It's a legitimate question. Mr. Matthew, you know the answer to that, right?
I believe...
I know
that
it, I think, but I heard you say it earlier.
I believe the child will still count in our Chapter 70 enrollment figures, but obviously that doesn't cover all of our operating budget.
So essentially, because it's not a school choice student, it's similar to when we discussed the possibility of having employee children enroll in the district. If it's not school choice, if it's collectively bargained, or if it's in policy, then the state basically pays the per pupil. We get the same thing we would as if he still lived in town.
Okay.
So it's like financially, it's better than a school choice situation.
And we do have that policy.
Right.
So we can work under the policy.
And we know this for a fact, that we do
Yes,
get
we-
reimbursement
I
for
do,
that
yes.
child. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, motion carries, it's unanimous, and then your second one?
Okay, so the second and third one are basically the same
Same.
thing. They are built, there's houses under construction in Dudley, and they have 2 children who they'd like to enroll so that they can start the year in their respective schools,
Okay.
rather than go to school until mid-September in the town they live in now, and then start at that time. So that's also
Same circumstance,
Same
so we can take
circumstance.
those two all together. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Discussion?
Both of them doing their own transportation again, like the first one.
Yeah, up until they take occupancy
Yep.
of their home, and then they would be able to take the bus.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. It's unanimous.
Just want to add that I made a mistake. It's policy JF, not JK. Sandy was probably ready to yell at me
It's
about that.
JF.
It's JF.
We've got it on our agenda. Next, consideration of district policy JJIB-A, non-district students' participation in district activities, first reading, and we did go over that at our last meeting. So I'm going to entertain a motion to waive the reading first.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Now, I'll entertain a motion for our first reading approval of policy JJIB-A.
So moved.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Okay, next meeting dates, Wednesday, August 10th, and it will be at the Charlton Middle School, 7 p.m. And did you set the budget now? Or you're in the process?
August 3rd,
August 3rd, okay.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. That's
District office.
District's office.
Unless our crowd is too big, we'll move it down here.
Future agenda items, FY 2017 budget, goals, evaluation of superintendent, homeschool requests. We did talk a little bit about the evaluation, that we are going to have a meeting at the end of August.
A couple things on the horizon, if I may, Mrs.
Okay.
O'Coin, and it may be the first meeting in September as opposed to August, but the our number is up for the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Coordinated Program Review, and so I'll have Mrs. O'Brien, Mrs. Allen, and Mrs. Martirosian making a presentation to the committee to explain exactly how that process is going to unfurl for us this time. And we also are working on what I consider to be a really fun and really exciting district-wide civics project related to the upcoming presidential election that I would like for Mrs. Allen to let the committee know about. It's something that I think you'll be very happy about.
Any other additions? Okay. That brings us to executive session this evening to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the governmental body, and to conduct collective bargaining sessions. And we will go into our executive session. We're going to reconvene to take a vote if necessary, and then adjourn. And I will take a roll call. Joe and
Yes.
yes, Mary, Stephanie. Okay, we're in executive session.